And then there was the big cliffhanger at the end of SmackDown with the return of Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Friday morning, there was a Fightful report about Kross. His name came up internally for a possible return to WWE. Later that night, there he was on my television screen. So we went from a possibility to a reality in the span of about 12 hours. Maybe not even. I wasn't shocked that Triple H would bring him back. I was shocked that it happened that fast. You know, he and Scarlett, they were released last November. In February, he made his return to MLW. He's been working other indies. I think he did New Japan Strong for a while. A week ago, today, just last Sunday, he wrestled Davey Boy Smith Jr. on the Ric Flair's Last Match pay-per-view. The man still had a full schedule. So the timing of this was very sudden. Kross is an interesting case because Karrion Kross is someone who Vince McMahon should have loved. He had the size, he could talk, and he had a sexy blonde valet with him. All the things that he loves. Check, check, check. Which is why it is still so baffling to me how badly they screwed it all up. He was the NXT champion when he got called up to Monday Night Raw last July. And in his debut match, Jeff Hardy rolled him up and pinned him in less than 2 minutes. They beat the NXT champion on his first night in. Kross said that they were originally booked to go out there and do 10 minutes. But as soon as he got to the ring, the referee told him the match was being cut to 90 seconds. They changed his look. They forced him to wear that stupid helmet. They basically tried to give him the Lord Humongous look. For those of you who get the reference, go look up Lord Humongous. That's basically what they were trying to do with him. And they took away one of the most important parts of his act. They took away Scarlett. She was called up to the main roster too, but she never debuted on television. They wanted her to wrestle. Vince McMahon saw her and said, I want you in the ring. She had a couple of dark matches. Something happened in the second one. She popped one of her breasts, didn't even know it. Had to have surgery, figured, okay, not a big deal. I can still manage while I heal up until I get cleared. And they said, nope, you're out. We want you to wrestle. When you're ready to wrestle, we'll bring you back and you'll wrestle. Obviously, that never happened. But they never should have split them up in the first place. Every bad decision that could have been made with Karrion Kross from the moment they decided to bring him up to Raw is what they did. Mick Foley said it at the time when WWE cut them. He said the company was trying to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You know why? The wheel works just fine the way it is. It's a fucking wheel. It doesn't need to be reinvented. It just works. Scarlett adds so much to the presentation. So that was the first, black mark against him from the moment he walked out in his first entrance and she wasn't there. We should have seen the writing on the wall then. 90 seconds later, we did. At the end of SmackDown, the Bloodline was in the ring. They were interrupted by Drew McIntyre, who came out. He called Roman the tribal queef, which was interesting. And then he was interrupted by Karrion Kross's music. And he turned, and Scarlett was there, and they had the giant bird. Remember his Titantron, the big bird? It looked great on the big LED screen. But with his back partially turned, Karrion Kross attacked him from behind and laid him out. Now he's got hair on his head, too. He's got hair, and he ditched the silly helmet. So McIntyre is knocked out on the floor. Kross is standing over him. He's got the jacket on and everything. And he turns to look at the Bloodline in the ring, and he's staring down Roman Reigns. Scarlett comes over. She takes the hourglass. She places it in the ring and turns it over. Tick-tock. A message has been sent to the tribal chief. I almost said queef. And in one night, they have now set him up as a headliner, either on Raw or SmackDown. We don't know what brand he'll end up on yet, but they set him up on night one to be a top guy in this company, and they made him out to be a killer. And it makes things more interesting now heading into Clash at the Castle, even though that match does not need it. Karrion Kross does not need to be in that match. If the plan is to add him, and we don't know what the plan is. All we know is that he made a big splash on Friday. Could be a red herring. Doesn't mean he's going to necessarily be in the ring with these two guys at Clash at the Castle. Fightful says that one of the pitches that was made was for Kross to be inserted into the Roman Reigns-Drew McIntyre feud. Not necessarily their match, but their feud. And to be involved in a match for one of Roman's titles, not both of them. Karrion Kross is not beating Roman Reigns. There's one of two people that should be the one to ultimately pin Roman Reigns. That is either Drew McIntyre, and if they're going to do it, it has to be in the UK. Or, and honestly, this would be my choice, but the timeline may not be on their side, is Cody Rhodes. If you were to say Solomonster in an ideal scenario, given the current layout of the roster, if you had to pick one person to be the guy to get that big moment and beat Roman Reigns and finally be the one to knock him down and take his championship, who would it be? Cody Rhodes would be my pick. We still don't know when Cody Rhodes will be back. Best case scenario, he's back in time for the Royal Rumble, and there's a great story to tell with him going in there and winning the Rumble. Hell, I mean, it could come... Look, when he got hurt, and we were first talking about this a few months ago, I laid it all out. You have the Royal Rumble come down to him and Seth Rollins. The final two. Cody wins the Rumble, he goes to WrestleMania. If they're not doing Roman and The Rock, which doesn't need to be for a belt anyway, and they're not doing Roman and The Rock, it'll be Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes, and what a great story. But they're heading into this big stadium show in the UK. How are you going to do a major stadium show in the UK, 65,000 plus, with Drew McIntyre in the main event and not have McIntyre walk out with both of those championships? It sounds insane to me. Whoever finally beats Roman Reigns, if it's anything but somebody just straight up pinning this guy and winning those belts, I just feel like it would undermine the entire moment. You have been building this up for over 700 days. Now, he hasn't been WWE champion for 700 days. So if he lost the WWE title, all right, it's not, he hasn't had that title as long. It's really the Universal title that he's had a stranglehold on now for, over 700 days. But it's been so long. He has been so dominant. He has beaten everybody in his path. He's beaten Brock Lesnar in each of their last 3 or 4 matches. Think of all the people that he has dispatched. When the moment finally comes that Roman Reigns is pinned in the middle of the ring, that's the moment. There's not 2 moments. There's 1 moment, and you don't want to fuck that up. You have invested so much time in this moment that you got to do it right. And I just feel like if they did it any other way, you are, even just a little bit, you are undermining what should be a very special moment. Now, the other part of that report talked about USA Network wanting one of the top titles to be featured more often on Monday Night Raw. They're not happy about not having a top championship on the show for this long because Roman Reigns never shows up. They never book him on the show. One idea pitched by USA, and why are they pitching creative ideas is what I'd like to know. Then again, I guess they're paying them hundreds of millions of dollars, so they can pretty much do whatever they want. But one idea pitched by USA was to have an interim title. Fightful, though, is not sure that that was ever seriously considered by WWE. Tony Khan approves. I think he would definitely approve of this interim title idea. I do not. I think that is completely unnecessary. You put both belts on a part-time performer, and now you're going to add an interim title to the mix? I think WWE would be wise to not give that any serious consideration. I think that is a dumb idea. If WWE wants to split the titles, and they're going to at some point before Survivor Series, those titles will be split. We'll have one champion on Raw again. We'll have one champion on SmackDown. The simplest way to do it would be a triple threat elimination match, very much like what they did at WrestleMania 2000 with Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. The first fall was for the Intercontinental title. The second fall was for the European title, which I always thought was weird. I would have done it the reverse way, but that's how they did that match. But the more I think about this, I don't really like that idea for Clash at the Castle. I'm not a fan of that idea. The titles don't need to be split on that particular show. They could do it at the following pay-per-view. They could do it in an angle on TV. It doesn't have to be a Clash at the Castle. We still have 4 more weeks of television before we get to Cardiff. That's a lot of TV time to fill. Assuming Roman Reigns will not be there every week, right? They have time to fill. What are they going to do? What are they going to do with Drew McIntyre over these next 4 weeks? Makes me wonder if Karrion Kross is there, not to be inserted into the main event of the pay-per-view, but if he's there to kind of fill the gap between now and then and give McIntyre a side program. Maybe even have the stipulation added that McIntyre has to beat Karrion Kross to keep his title match with Roman Reigns, even though he already earned it by beating Sheamus. Somehow, the title shot is on the line. He has to beat Karrion Kross if he wants to keep his title match with Roman Reigns. The stare down with Kross and Roman at the end of the show on Friday does not necessarily mean that they are going to wrestle. Heel against heel. I don't see that happening. Kross and Drew, though, that I can see happening. A week or two before the pay-per-view, McIntyre beats Kross to keep his shot. Kross attacks him after the match. Maybe Drew's old friend Sheamus makes the save. I saw Sheamus, he was on Twitter, he was giving Drew props on Twitter after they had that Donnybrook match, that great match they had on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. So there's a mutual respect there. That could then lead to Kross against Sheamus at Clash at the Castle. If they want to give Karrion Kross, a match on that show, he can go in there and beat Sheamus at the UK show. But Kross does not need to be in the championship match. Just the fact that he's even in the mix, and they did with him what they did on Friday, he's already in a position 10 times better than anything Vince McMahon ever did with him. He does not have to win the championship. He's already won. He got his girl back. He got his hair back. He was in the final segment on SmackDown. He'll probably be in a main angle on SmackDown these next 3 or 4 weeks. He's already a winner. I'm happy to see him back and getting another shot. But again, it does not have to be in a championship match. But what I love about this is that it could go so many different ways, and nobody knows what Triple H is going to do. Even Sami Zayn, I made my pitch for the team with KO against the Usos, but the Usos told Sami on Friday, hey, you better start pulling your weight, or we're not even going to let you wear that Bloodline t-shirt anymore. If they keep Paul Heyman off television for a while, maybe Sami sees fit to step in and he talks to Adam Pearce on his behalf. So imagine if Roman Reigns wants nothing to do with a triple threat in the UK and Sami unwittingly thinks he's doing Roman a favor by suggesting to Adam Pearce that it would be unfair for Roman Reigns to have to wrestle 2 men at the same time, so why not split the matches up? And because of Sami, Roman has to defend the WWE title against Karrion Kross to open the show and the Universal title against Drew to close out the show. Again, I'm not saying I would do that, but the point is they have lots of options for how they could handle these different stories, and that's what makes it so interesting and so fun to follow. Dakota Kai, Karrion Kross, Scarlett coming back. This is just the beginning. This is only the start of Triple H trying to right the wrongs of the old guard. People in WWE are expecting him to be even more aggressive with his creative changes. Lots of other talents have been talked about for possible returns. They say that he is not expected to take his foot off the gas pedal anytime soon. Good. Good. That's exactly what this company needs. A swift kick in the ass, creatively. That's something they've needed for a very long time.